I'm finally back with more Boys Love content. This time, we're talking about the recently released Slow Damage, developed by Nitroplus Churral and published in the West by Jest Blue. This is something I was looking forward to, but wasn't able to get to right away because it came out a few days after Gore Screaming Show. Jest released two highly anticipated titles days from each other. Bold move. Now that I've finished Slow Damage, I have quite a few thoughts on it. Fair warning, Slow Damage covers some dark topics like self-harm and childhood trauma, so be careful if you're sensitive to such subjects. For some history, Slow Damage was developed by Nitroplus Churral, the BL branch of Nitroplus. They've released several BL titles over the years, most well known probably being Dramatical Murder, which blew up in BL-loving circles. Slow Damage is their most recent release, coming out in February 2021 in Japan, with the English translation coming out a year later in November of 2022. Slow Damage was written and directed by Fushi Kabura, who was responsible for writing the scenarios for every previous Nitroplus Churral visual novel as well. However, this is the first time she has also been the director, so I imagine she had more creative control over this project than any of her previous games. Personally, I have a bit of a weird relationship with Nitroplus Churral. I played Togaino no Chi a few years ago, and that didn't exactly give me a positive first impression of their works. Despite this, I stumbled across the opening for Slow Damage and became interested in it. To prepare, I played another Nitroplus Churral title, Sweet Pool, so I'd have another frame of reference for their quality. Sweet Pool is actually pretty good, and something I'd like to talk about in more detail in the future. This got me in the right mindset for approaching Slow Damage and gave me a bit more appreciation for Churral. With that out of the way, what is Slow Damage about? The story is set in the city of Shintomi, which was bought by the Yakuza group, the Takasato Gumi, and turned into the biggest casino resort in Japan. It's a unique city that's run by the Yakuza without any interference from the Japanese government. It's almost like its own independent city-state. This city is the home of the protagonist, Toa, an apathetic and gloomy man whose sole passion is painting. Of course, he doesn't just paint anything. He has a sort of obsession of capturing the moment when a person's dark, hidden desires are fulfilled. He works part-time at a clinic while also painting under the pseudonym Euphoria. The plot can be difficult to describe because it can vary wildly between routes. One of the major plotlines that's consistent throughout the story is the matter of the head of the Takasato Gumi's recent death and the tensions between the two factions over who will become the next Yakuza leader. This is important, but I wouldn't say it's the main focus. The story is more focused on exploring the relationship between Toa and their chosen partner in the route. I describe it as a psychological thriller with some crime drama elements. The story might seem a bit episodic at first, with the first two chapters dealing with separate incidents, but the story truly gets its momentum in the third chapter when it focuses on Toa's route partner. What I find interesting is how the first chapter is essentially the common route, with the second chapter serving as a unique setup for their partner-focused third chapter. I think the setting of Shintomi is very cool. It's a chaotic place where the downtrodden of society gather in hopes of improving their lot in life, but often get shackled to debt. The background of how the city came to be features obvious societal commentary and capitalist critique. The city shows the immense gap between the rich and poor and how being forced into debt affects people. The city has a kind of culture of its own. People go to the deathmatch area, an abandoned district, to vent their frustrations through fistfights. The city and some of the ideas used in exploring the criminal underworld reminded me of stuff from Togaino no Chi. It felt like Kaburo was reusing these ideas with a fresh perspective. It shows how much she has grown as a writer since her debut work. With the story being so focused on the characters, let's talk about them. Toa is the protagonist, and I love him. He's the best character in the story. He's very fascinating and unusual. He's rather laid back and leads a self-destructive lifestyle, always drinking and smoking whenever possible. What he wants is to be destroyed completely, but knows that a fistfight would not usually go that far, so he settles for rough sex. It's shocking that he's still alive with that kind of lifestyle and is so attractive. He's covered in scars, a testament to how much he has been through. He has some strange habits like hating silence and needing some kind of background noise. He's someone who obviously has some sort of baggage and trauma, yet that trauma is sort of unknown to him. His memories of his past are vague, and the mystery of what made him this way is something that's built up throughout the story. Toa's most notable talent is his power of persuasion, which he uses to drag out people's hidden desires. What makes this easy for him is his ability to perceive what he calls people's smoke. It's this aura that's unique to every person that only he can see. By observing changes to a person's smoke, he can have a good idea of when people are lying or be alerted to sudden changes to a person's mood. The nature on why he's able to see such things is never really elaborated on, but I think it's implied to be psychological in nature, rather than being a supernatural thing. It's also refreshing to see a character that's actually pretty competent, is only held back by his complete apathy towards anything unrelated to his art. He's a flawed and complex character that made experiencing the world from his eyes extremely enjoyable. As for the love interest, first we have Taku Murase, a doctor who gave Toa a part-time job at his clinic so he could have some income. Taku has been looking out for Toa since the latter was a child, who is a kind of parental figure for him. He's extremely protective of Toa, which isn't always framed as a positive thing. He does have genuinely good intentions, but this protectiveness can hold Toa back, which is something that's explored in his route as well as the final route. His route is my least favorite in the game. It's not bad, but I wasn't a fan of his romance of Toa. Without he's known Toa since he was a child, it felt weird to me how his feelings became romantic. I like him more as a fatherly figure, and he's not my type either. Besides that, the route is pretty good, it just doesn't reach the same highs as the other routes did for me. Taku's backstory and how it goes into his flaws is interesting though. Rei Izumi is Toa's other main friend and often doses at him in a similar way to Taku, but not as extreme. He works with Toa at the clinic during the day, while also having another job at a bar called Roost, which Toa frequents. He has a hobby of going to the deathmatch area with his friends and getting into fistfights. Rei is a wonderful character and fun presence in the story. I like him a lot. He has these effeminate mannerisms and way of speaking, which could bother people, but I find it endearing. His route covers topics like toxic masculinity, how debt can drive people to extremes, and how parents can horribly traumatize their children. If I had a nitpick with this route, it's that it's a bit too forgiving of Rei's terrible father, who's the source of most of the bad things in this route. I guess it's because Japanese culture does place a huge importance on blood ties, or it could be chalked up to Rei being a nice person and trying to be better than his father. In which case it's fine. The way his relationship with Toa develops is really sweet and felt natural. Next we have Kei Madarame, who was Toa's friend when he was in the Takasato Gumi. He was presumed dead, but has come back to Shinkomi to settle the score. He's absent from the previous two routes, but the way he's hyped up as his unstoppable force is rad. Madarame himself is a bit of a bastard and can be hard to like. The route starts with him abducting Toa, and he's a violent person in general. The way he treats Toa as a pet reminded me of how Shiki acted in a similar way in Tokano no Chi. Another example of how Kabura has refined ideas she used previously in this game. Anyway, Madarame is a hard guy to get a read on. Even Toa doesn't understand him. However, by the end of the route, I understood his life's philosophy, and found it poignant. His route is about abandoning all shreds of your past and forgetting about the future to enjoy the present moment. It has Toa distance himself from his friends and leave them all behind so he wouldn't have to face his trauma. The way Toa develops in this route is interesting because he does improve in certain ways, but he also gets worse. His relationship with Madarame is kind of toxic and can be seen as unhealthy. Still, I really enjoyed this route and its take on this warped relationship. I somehow became endeared to Madarame in spite of disliking him initially. I was won over by his spirit and how he's always true to himself. Last but certainly not least is Ryo Fujita. He's a lawyer working for the Takasato Gumi. His route could be considered the true route as it's the last one you unlock. It brings together elements of all the previous routes, making it feel complete. All the mysteries surrounding Toa's past that have been built up are finally delved into. As for Fujita himself, he's an enigmatic person that appears briefly in every previous route, but here he gets the spotlight. I won't say too much about him, but he's an amazing character. He's the only character Toa doesn't already have a history with, so it gets to show the two getting to know each other. I think this route needs to be experienced, so all I'll say is that I think it's phenomenal. Easily the highlight of the game. I think the only nitpick I could have is that the climax is a bit over the top, but it makes thematic sense, so I'll allow it. Aside from those main characters, there's a wide variety of side characters that Toa interacts with. These side characters don't get the amount of attention or development as the main ones, but they do serve an important purpose. The web of connections and friends that Toa has makes Shinkomi feel more believable as a setting. Everyone has their own perspective and takes on the goings-on of the city. For example, the old lady that runs the candy store isn't that important to the plot, but her interactions with Toa can illuminate a perspective on how the city used to be. In addition, Toa gets additional characterization from these encounters. I enjoy the detail of how he buys candy there and always overpays for it because he likes the lady. It shows that Toa can have a nicer side. These side characters aren't complex, but are given enough characterization to be endearing and memorable. I wish some of them got to do more. Eiji was my favorite side character, and he's probably the most important one in every route. He has a cute design, and I loved his playful personality. He gathers intel and is an explosive expert. I wish he had an H scene, but it's said early on that he's not into sex stuff. I wonder if he's asexual. It would be cool if that was the intention. His two buddies that are usually with him, Kotaro and Mayu, are rad as well. I think Ray's friends deserve a mention as well. They're solid queer representation. Arata is really cool. I wish they were more involved with the story. The presentation is immaculate. I was impressed how much effort was put into making the game look stylish. Even the main menu is well thought out and how is Toa's atelier. The artist for the game is Yamada Urio, who has worked on multiple other Nitroplus games, including Fullmetal Damon Muramasa and Tokyo Necro, albeit only as an assistant working on the 2D graphics or other such things. This is the first time they've been the main artist, and I think they did an outstanding job. The character designs stand out, and I think Urio has a vibrant style. The number of unique sprites that are in this game is staggering. There's a plethora of unique variants you see throughout the story. Even random background characters that you only see once get unique sprites. I appreciate all the small details like the screen flickering slightly when a certain word is said, or the color of a character's Euphoria gauge matches their smoke color. That brings me to the gameplay and the free exploration segments and interrogations. During certain parts of the story, Toa will have some free time on his hands to explore the city. The main point here is to talk to characters to gain inspiration from mundane phrases that Toa can use later in his interrogations. The game will tell you which parts of the city are worth exploring, but even then, you can still end up missing pieces of inspiration. This is because occasionally, they are locked behind what kind of response you give to the character you meet. You can choose to give positive or negative responses, which I think only affects if you get these hidden inspirations. I missed a few of these on my first blind run of Taku's route, knocking me out with a bad ending. Not a big deal and you should be able to progress the story, but using a guide to get every inspiration could be useful and was my strategy going forward. At the end of chapters, you'll get an interrogation sequence where Toa tries to bring out someone's hidden desires. Here you choose how to respond and try to raise their euphoria meter. You can choose to present inspiration at certain moments or remain silent. Choosing to keep quiet is actually advantageous sometimes. You need to be careful of madness as well, represented by the cracking of the glass. Ending of madness is how you get the bad endings. I think these interrogation sequences serve as a little test to see how well the player understands the characters that's being interrogated, and how much they've been paying attention. They aren't very difficult, but I think they're used to great effect. I adore the animation that plays when you present the right evidence. It evokes the idea of ripping open these mental scars and laying everything bare perfectly. The music was composed by Ziz Studio, who are responsible for various other Nitroplus soundtracks. Their work here is fantastic, as always. The music is comprised of many jazz tracks, which add to the noir feeling that parts of the story have. I also like the intense music during interrogations. What I found most impressive was the amount of ending songs. Each ending has a different vocal ending song. Each art has 2 endings, so that's 8 ending songs in total. In particular, I love Madarame's ending songs by the band Arcta. I can't stop listening to his bad ending song, Damaging You. It rocks and perfectly represents the warped relationship he has with Toa. In contrast, I'm not a big fan of Ray's ending songs by Goatbed. They're fine songs, but not exactly my genre of music. This is a game much more focused on plot, but there's still some arrow scenes. Each art has 2 H scenes, with the 2 extra H scenes you can see at certain parts that give you an abrupt bad end. Some scenes are pretty vanilla, but others can go into near Guro territory and are dark. For example, one where Toa masturbates while cutting himself. While not exactly a sex scene, a scene that happens early on has Toa and another character erotically cut each other. These scenes are short, but it's not a story for the faint of heart. Thematically, Slow Damage is a story about scars, both physical and mental. More than that, it's a story about healing. It shows how trauma affects people, but that trauma doesn't need to define you. It may be painful to face such things, but you need to do so to move forward. It's a gradual process and some trauma leaves permanent scars, but with the support of friends you can move on and be happy. Furthermore, Slow Damage delves heavily into the darker desires that people repress. It shows the necessity to accept these parts of yourself that you want to reject. This is best exemplified in the difference between good euphoric ends and the bad madness ends. In the madness endings, characters allow their dark desires to consume them and do horrible things. The good euphoria endings, on the other hand, the characters accept the darkness as part of themselves but are able to deal with it in healthy ways without getting carried away. Slow Damage is thematically rich and deals with all these heavy topics with tastefulness. In conclusion, Slow Damage is an excellent visual novel that I had a lot of fun reading. It's the best BL visual novel I've read so far. It's consistently engaging and has a strong cast of main characters. I think it's a must-play if you enjoy psychological stories or just good stories in general. Even if you're not typically into BL, I still think it's worth giving a shot. It's the best VN Nitro Plus Churro has released yet. I'd put it as one of my favorite Nitro Plus VNs in general. If I was forced to give it a rating, I'd give it a very strong 8 out of 10. As of right now, you can only buy the game at the Jest store. It's important to purchase it there to support the staff that translated the game, though I hope it comes to Steam in the future so it can reach an even wider audience. If you made it this far, thanks for watching.